Howdy, guys, and welcome to night 26 of Celebrity Big Brother Season 3. Welcome to the overnight feeds recaps, and welcome to Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. Now, a good Monday to y'all. Normally, Mondays aren't always the most exciting, fun day, but we've got a live double eviction episode tonight, which is going to be so entertaining. We're going to get down from 5 house guests to 3. I'm really ready for this evening. But before we get there, let's talk about last night's episode and some of the conversations that took place overnight. First of all, from last night, we finally got to see the HOH that Todrick won, and it was a cool competition. I think it replaced BB Comics in that it involved looking at a picture on the memory wall, a picture of art, and then running through the house, finding the equivalent picture, seeing if there were any changes, find the differences between the two pictures. One of the 6 pictures on the memory wall had a mistake. You had to figure out which one it was, run out into the backyard, not be last, make your correct choice. And they did that for several rounds until we got to our final winner. I think it replaced BB Comics because in a regular season, BB Comics, you go across the zip line, you look at the comic, and then you have to pick which one of the 2 comics is exactly the same that was up on the display as you went across the zip line. So it was fun to watch. It was fun as a viewer to watch and see if you could figure out what the differences were. As a participant, yeah, the results, yeah, we knew Todrick was going to win, but it's a little disappointing to see that the final 2 was Todrick and Misha. Lamar, I know that guy's fast. I've seen him on a basketball court before, but he didn't seem to have a whole lot of zip in his move while he was inside that house. And so even though he was right in the end, he was so slow that he didn't get it correct. Todrick wins the whole thing, and as a result, we now know that he put Lamar and Todd up for nomination. For now, we do know that he has won the veto. That Todd Bridges has won the veto. So Todd and Lamar staying on the block, probably not going to happen, right? You would think, but we do have to talk about that. So we did see the HOH competition. We also saw the nomination ceremony by Todrick. And Todrick saying, oh, this is going to be this grand entry and everything else. And he dressed up and he sang and he made it a grand affair for the nomination. Now, during my season, Zingbot called my castmate Tommy Bracco an attention whore. I think the title has now been passed to Todrick Hall. Don't you think? But yeah, Todrick made it a big deal to have the nomination ceremony. But in the end, it's still the same. Lamar and Todd up for nomination. So let's talk about the live feeds themselves. First of all, we've got Todrick talking to Cynthia. He's telling her, saying, look, you're not going home. I'm telling you, you're not going home. He's saying, even if Todd uses a veto on himself, why wouldn't he? But he says, even if Todd doesn't use a veto on himself, or even if he does use a veto on himself, yes, you'll go on the block, but we're voting out Lamar. So you're not going anywhere, Cynthia. He tells her a little bit later, he says, I want a final 3 of Misha, myself, and you. Well, yeah, because he thinks Cynthia is probably the easiest to beat in any kind of competitions to get to the final 2, and he wants that to be himself and Misha. Is that smart? Do you want to go up against Misha? I don't know. Maybe Todrick thinks he's already got so many people upset him. I don't know if Todrick really thinks he can win. I think he does. I truly think he does. That he thinks he can talk about being the brains behind the operation and everything else. That Misha was just the power person, but he was the one that thinking it all through. I still think he thinks he can win. But he wants to have Misha, himself, and Cynthia in the final 3. Cynthia has told Todrick that if it comes down to him and Misha as a final 2, that he has Cynthia's vote. Nah, don't ever promise that. Don't talk to someone don't talk to someone in the house and say, look, if somehow I get voted out, you got my vote. Because then there's just that much more incentive for that person to go ahead and say, well, yeah, I'll let her go. She's going to vote for me anyway. Nah, you make them think that if they cut you loose, they may not have your vote. So Cynthia tells him that he's got her vote no matter what. I wouldn't have done that. Cynthia is promising Todrick that she will save him if she wins veto tonight in the second half of the double eviction, that she'll save him if he saves her in the first half and make sure that Lamar goes home instead of her. So she's already working some deals. No way I'd save Todrick if I had the opportunity. But here's what Cynthia's probably thinking. If she wins veto, yeah, she'll save Todrick. She'll send Misha home. They're both huge, strong targets. So probably not a huge deal for her to make that kind of promise, whether she keeps it or not. Todrick does tell Cynthia, says, look, if you make it to the final 3 tonight, that means you got a 33% chance of winning. Nah, that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. Just because you're 1-3 doesn't mean that you have an equal chance of winning the final competitions. Todrick and Miesha are going to be so much more competitive when it comes down to those final three over Cynthia. But hey, maybe Cynthia's holding it all in reserve and she's going to surprise us at the very end. We do have Miesha and Todrick both suspecting that tonight's got to be a double eviction. They only have, they're 5 people. Even if they get down to 4 finales just in a couple of days, they know it's going to be a double eviction. No one's going to be surprised at this point. Lamar may be surprised. No one's going to be surprised at double eviction this evening. We do have Todrick talking to Todd. He's talking to Todd saying, look, why don't you not use the veto? We talked about this a little bit yesterday. He said, don't use the veto. Just keep Cynthia off the block. It's kind of a birthday gift and everything. He's worried, and he's vocalized to Todd. He's worried that Todd's going to vote to send, if Todd uses a veto, that Todd will then vote to send Cynthia out the door, which he will, that Miesha will vote to send Lamar out the door, which she will. And as a result, Todrick's going to have to break the tie to send Lamar home, and it's going to be blood on his hands, one more vote that he may not get in the jury. Todrick doesn't want to do that. Well, sorry. Sometimes you have to break a tie and get some blood on your hands when you're HOH. That's the way it works. But Todd is telling him, said, look, I may agree to it if you can guarantee that if Lamar and I stay on the block, it's Lamar going home and not me. You got to be able to guarantee that. Don't do it, Todd. Todd's not. There's no way Todd's going to do it. He's just humoring Todrick. Think about it a little bit. There's no way Todd's going to do it. And later we do see Todd vocalize and say, hey, I'm a little nervous about doing that. I'm not going to do it. There's no way he's going to do it. Todd's using the veto tonight. If not, he needs to go home. He's not. He'll use the veto. Miesha's trying to convince Todrick that keeping Todd is better than keeping Cynthia. There does seem to be a little disagreement about the two of them who should go home. Remember that Miesha and Todd had a kind of pseudo final 2 at one point in time. Miesha certainly feels a lot closer to Todd than Todrick does. Miesha probably thinks that if Todd sticks around, if he was to win this veto later tonight, that he would probably keep Miesha over Todrick. So she's thinking maybe keep Todd, send Cynthia home. Todrick saying, yeah, I already promised Cynthia she's not going anywhere. So Lamar, I think, will go home. It's not going to be Todd or Cynthia, either one. Todrick's telling Miesha that he's going to, or Todd is telling Miesha, saying, look, however you vote, I'm going to vote just the opposite. I want to force Todrick to make that final decision to get blood on his hands. Yeah, okay, that's kind of a fun way to approach it. The thing is, Todd doesn't know how Miesha's going to vote. It's going to be a vote in private, so he doesn't really know, but that's his intention. Dinner time. We've got 4 house guests sitting at the dinner table eating. We've got 1 house guest, Lamar Odom, who's sitting over in the gym upstairs eating all by himself. I think Lamar sees the writing on the wall. He knows that he's gone as of this evening. And he's a little despondent as a result of it. We've got throughout the evening Todrick talking a lot about his shows, about his fans, where he's performed. Just a lot of talk about his shows. I won't go into a lot of detail here. Miesha mentions that she wants to do Dancing with the Stars with Todrick when they get out. Yeah, you may not get the phone ringing quite as much as you think. But the other thing, too, there's not a lot of crossover between CBS and ABC in terms of these reality shows. So I'm not really counting on a Todrick, Miesha, either one on Dancing with the Stars anytime soon. But we'll see. There may be more reality in both of their futures. We'll find out. Todrick is talking about renting his house out while he's on tour that's starting up. He talks about how much his neighbors hate that he's got this huge home in kind of a family neighborhood. It talks about having a party that had all kinds of marijuana and strippers and loud music. And he says, but I had to, it's my birthday. Yeah, I can see how the neighbors may not particularly like those kind of activities, right? But he talks a lot about that and owning a home. There's a lot of conversation about owning homes and just a lot of non-game conversations that takes place throughout most of the evening. And then finally, kind of shut down, we got Todrick and Miesha in the HOH. They're going over dates, competitions, etc., in preparation for a potential comp of that sort, which we have every year. I don't think they're going to do that tonight as part of a live show because it could take a long time for some of these house guests to figure out these dates and everything else. That could be interesting. But it is a little bit easier. You only start with 11 house guests in 29 days. You should be able to remember most of that, right? But I don't expect to see it tonight. As part of a Final 3 competition, a second leg of a Final 3, yeah, you may have a date and comp, of date and contest kind of comp at some point as part of that final the second part of the final three competitions. We could see that. So probably a good thing that they are preparing. All right. And finally, a lot of talk about past Celebrity Big Brother seasons. It sounds like they all watched at least a little bit of the past seasons while they were in sequester, because they're talking about who Final Four were, Final Three were, exactly how it worked and all of that. So it's interesting, but not a whole lot of gameplay. And that's about it. The feed shut down, I don't know, 1, 2, something o'clock in the morning. So there you have it. The main thing to take away from all that, tonight's the double eviction. Todd will use a veto. Lamar will go home. And then it all comes down to who wins that veto to figure out who our final three are going to be. And I'm going to be watching every bit of it. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Monday. I'll be back tomorrow morning to talk about our final three, what we think is going to happen. Until then, y'all have a great one. SKD 143. Cheers, my friends.